She arrived just before sunset, when the sky was wide and quiet, the road behind her was long and dusty, and she did not look back. Her hands were cold, even though the air was warm. She held a small bag close to her side like it was the only thing she owned in the world. The ranch stood ahead of her, open land, stretching far in every direction. She felt small as she stepped forward. The cowboy saw her from a distance. He was fixing a fence when he noticed her standing still, unsure of where to go. He did not rush toward her. He watched first, like someone used to learning the truth by waiting. She noticed him too, and her heart began to beat faster. She had learned that new places often meant new rules and new risks. She had been sent away before, not with anger or cruelty, but with quiet words that hurt just as much. People always said it was for the best. Said she would understand one day, but she never did. Jid goodbye felt the same. Door closing while she stood on the wrong side. When she reached the house, she stopped again. The porch was worn from years of boots and weather. It looked strong and tired at the same time. She wondered if she would last here. She wondered if this place would decide she was not worth the trouble. The cowboy finally walked over. His steps were slow and steady. He did not smile, but his face was calm. He asked if she was tired from the road. She nodded, because her voice felt stuck in her throat. He took the bag from her hand and motioned toward the house. That small act surprised her. She followed without speaking inside. The house smelled like wood and coffee. The space was simple and clean. Nothing fancy, nothing wasted. She stood near the door, unsure where to place herself. The cowboy pointed to a chair and told her she could rest. His voice was low and even, not sharp, not cold. Still, she waited for the part where he would change his mind. As she sat, she looked around. Slowly, every item seemed to have a purpose. Nothing felt temporary. That scared her more than kindness ever. Could she had learned how to survive in places where nothing lasted? Here, everything looked like it planned to stay. He poured water into a cup and placed it near her. She thanked him softly. The words sounded strange in her own ears. She had not used it much lately. She drank slowly, afraid to spill, afraid to make a mistake so early. He asked her about the road. Shed told him it was long. He nodded like that answer was enough. He did not push her for more. That made her uneasy. Most people asked too many questions. Others asked none, because they already planned to let her go. When night came, the land outside grew quiet. Crickets sang and the wind moved through the grass. The cowboy showed her a small room, a chair, a window facing the open land. He told her she could sleep and chores could wait until morning. She thanked him again. He left without another word. Alone, she sat on the edge of the bed. The room felt safe, but unfamiliar. She placed her bag on the floor and did not unpack. She never unpacked on the first night. She had learned that lesson well. She lay down and stared at the ceiling, her mind filled with worries. If she failed at the work, what? If she spoke too much or too little, what? If he realized she was not strong enough for this place? She told herself not to hope. Hope always made things hurt worse. Still, her chest felt tight with something close to it. The quiet here was different. It did not feel like waiting for trouble. It felt like holding a breath outside. The cowboy sat alone on the porch. He watched the stars come out one by one. He thought about the way she stood at the edge of the yard, like someone ready to run. He recognized that look. He had seen it in himself. Long ago, he did not bring her here by accident. He had a reason, even if he had not said it yet. He knew she feared being sent away. He could see it in her careful steps and the way she watched every movement. As the night grew deeper, both of them stayed awake, each wondering what the morning would bring, each unsure how much truth to share. Their land around them stayed wide and silent, like it was listening. She closed her eyes at last, not because she felt safe, but because she was too tired to keep guarding her heart. And in that quiet room, on a lonely ranch, a story began without either of them knowing how much it would change. The morning came slow and pale over the land. The light touched the fields before it reached the house. She woke before the sun fully rose, not because she wanted to, but because her body never trusted rest. She sat up, listening for sounds: horses, shifting wind, brushing grass, distant birds. Nothing felt urgent, yet her chest stayed tight. She washed her face with cool water and tied her hair back. She wore simple clothes, ready for work. She did not know what the day would ask of her, but she knew she had to show effort. Of fort had always been her way of staying a little longer. When she stepped outside, the air felt wide and open too. Open, she stood still for a moment, unsure where to go. The cowboy was already awake. He moved near the barn, lifting tools, checking gates. He noticed her but did not call out. She walked toward him. Slowly, her steps were careful, like the ground might shift beneath her. She waited for instructions. He handed her a bucket and showed her where the water pump was. His movements were clear and patient. No sharp words, no raised voice. She worked beside him through the morning, carrying water, feeding animals, sweeping dust. Her arms ached, but she did not complain. She focused on each task like it mattered. More than anything else, she believed mistakes were remembered longer than effort. At one point, she spilled water across the dirt. Bucket tipped. When her grip slipped, she froze, waiting for the moment to be told she was careless. The cowboy looked over. He paused, then picked up the bucket. He showed her a better way to carry it. That was all. Her heart beat hard after that. Not from fear, but from surprise. No anger had come, no sigh of disappointment. Just Gaden. She nodded and continued as the day moved on. The sun grew warmer. Her hands grew rough and tired. She kept going. She did not want to stop. Stopping first always felt like giving someone a reason. During a break, she sat on a fence rail. She drank water slowly. The cowboy sat a short distance away. To the spoke. The silence did not feel heavy. It felt shared. She watched him work. The way he moved showed long habit, every motion steady and sure. She wondered how long he had been alone. Here she wondered if he planned to stay that way in the afternoon. Clouds gathered far off. The wind shifted. The cowboy checked the sky. He told her a storm might come later. She nodded and followed him back to work. A horse startled near the fence. She stepped back too quickly and lost her balance. She fell into the dirt. Pain was sharp, but brief. What hurt more was the shame. She pushed herself up quickly. Cowboy was already there. He asked if she was hurt. She shook her head, though her knee stung. He helped her stand. His grip was firm but careful. He made sure she was steady before letting go. She waited again for the words that never came. No blame, no warning, just concern that unsettled her more than anger would have. As evening neared, the storm never arrived. The sky cleared and the light softened. They finished the last tasks together. Her body felt heavy. Her mind felt fuller. Inside the house, she helped prepare a simple meal. She moved quietly, trying not to be in the way. The cowboy thanked her for the help. The word caught her off guard. She looked up, unsure if she heard right. He met her eyes briefly, then looked away. They ate without much talk. The sound of utensils against plates filled the room. She felt oddly calm, like something inside her had eased. Just a little later, she cleaned up and stepped outside. The sky was deep with stars. She breathed in slowly. The land felt less frightening now. Still, it's big, still quiet, but not hostile. On the porch, the cowboy leaned against a post. He asked how her first full day felt. She hesitated, then told him it was hard. He nodded and said hard did not mean wrong. That stayed with her before bed. She returned to her room. This time she placed her bag on the chair. She still did not unpack, but she no longer kept it within reach. Lying in the dark, she thought about the day no one had hinted she should leave. No one had tested her worth aloud. The fear did not disappear, only rested outside. The cowboy watched the lights go out. He knew she was waiting for the moment she would be sent away. Understood that waiting too well, he had lived it in his own way. He did not plan to send her away, but he also knew trust took time for both of them. As the night settled over the ranch, though quiet wrapped around the house, not like a warning but like a promise still forming, the days began to blend together. In a slow, steady rhythm, she woke early each morning before the sun, not from fear this time, but from habit forming her body learned the land, her hands learned the work. Still, her heart stayed guarded. She moved with more confidence. Now she knew where tools were kept. She knew which animals needed patience. She knew when to step aside and when to step forward. Cowboy noticed these changes, though. He said, little. Some mornings they worked side by side, other times apart, but always within sight. That alone mattered to her, being seen without being watched too closely. One afternoon, the heat pressed down heavy. The work slowed. Air felt thick. They rested beneath a wide tree near the edge of the field. She sat on the ground, pulling her knees close. The cowboy handed her water. Their fingers brushed for a brief moment. She pulled her hand back quickly, not from dislike, but from instinct. She apologized, though she was not sure why he told her she did not need to be sorry for small things. She looked at him, then really looked. His face showed years of sun and quiet thought, no softness that was loud, but something steady beneath it. Silence stretched between them. She felt words rising in her chest. Dangerous words, the kind that once spoken could not be taken back. She swallowed them down. Later that evening, she struggled with a task. The rope tangled and refused to cooperate. Her frustration grew. She tried again, and again her hands shook. The cowboy approached and watched for a moment. He did not take over. He showed her slowly how to adjust her grip, how to let the rope work with her instead of against her. She followed his guidance. The task finally worked. Relief washed over her face. She laughed before she could stop herself. The sound surprised them. Both. He smiled, then not wide, but real. That small moment stayed with her. Long after as night came, they sat on the porch again. The stars felt closer now. She asked him about the land, how long he had been there. He told her pieces, not everything. Years of work, years of quiet, years of choosing this life because it made sense. She nodded, understanding more than she expected. She knew what it meant to choose quiet when noise only brought pain. She told him a little about herself, not the full story, just enough to let him see the outlying places she had lived, people who decided she did not fit her. Voice stayed calm, but her hands twisted together. He noticed but did not comment. He listened without interruption. That was new for her. When she finished, she waited for judgment. It never came. He said, "Some people leave not because others fail, but because they do not know how to keep what matters." Those words settled deep inside her. She did not know what to do with them. Yet the next day a storm finally came. Dark clouds rolled in. Fast the wind picked up. Suddenly they rushed to secure what they could. Rain fell hard. The ground turned slick. She slipped again, but caught herself this time. She kept moving despite the fear inside the barn. The noise of rain was loud. The air smelled of earth and hay. They stood close, shouting over the sound, working together without thought. For a moment the world felt small. Just the two of them and the task at hand. No past, no future, only now. When the storm passed, the land looked changed, fresh and clean. She felt the same way inside, like something had shifted that night. She unpacked a few items, not everything, but enough to mark a choice. Dress folded neatly, a small object from her past placed by the bed. She sat back and looked at them. Her chest tightened. Hope crept in again, uninvited. She reminded herself this was only part 3 of a longer story. That safety once felt had been taken away before. Outside, the cowboy noticed the light still on. He knew she was beginning to settle. He also knew that scared her. He had his own reason for wanting her, the reason tied to loneliness and the weight of choosing the wrong silence, but he was not ready to speak it yet. The night grew quiet again. Both lay awake thinking of the same thing, not fear this time, but the question of what staying might truly mean. Morning arrived with a thin light over the fields. She woke slowly, her body sore, but ready. She knew the work would be hard again, yet something inside felt steadier than before. The cowboy was already outside. Moved along the fence, checking posts and gates. She followed quietly, carrying her tools, not because he ordered it, but because she wanted to. The land seemed bigger today. The sun hit the grass, making it shine. She walked carefully among the animals, making sure nothing was hurt. Her hands worked with precision. At one point a young horse bolted. She froze, unsure what to do. The cowboy ran after it, calling the horse softly. She watched him. Something about the way he moved gave her a strange calm. Later, she found herself working alone in the barn. She stacked hay and cleaned floors. Her thoughts wandered to why she stayed. She feared being sent away, yet something kept her here. During
At
lunch, she sat on the porch. The cowboy joined her after a while. He handed her a piece of bread. No words at first, only the sound of wind and birds. Then spoke about the storm the night before, how it showed the strength of the land and the people who worked. She nodded, though she did not fully understand. The afternoon brought a new task, repairing a broken gate. She tried first and failed. Her fingers bled slightly. The cowboy came over and guided her step by step. He did not take over, he only helped her see what she could not endure. The gate was fixed. He looked at her seriously, told her that staying here was not just about work. It was about trust and patience and courage. She felt her chest tighten. She wanted to ask more, but fear kept her silent. Later that day, she found herself thinking about her past, the many times she had been sent away, the long nights of uncertainty, the quiet doors closing on her. She realized how much it had shaped her, how much it made her doubt herself, and yet here she was, still standing. The cowboy noticed her pause. He did not ask what she was thinking. Knew some things had to be discovered alone that evening. He asked her to help with chores inside the house, cooking, cleaning, small repairs. She did her best. He watched carefully, never rushing, never criticizing. A question formed in her mind. Why did he want her to stay? Was it need or kindness or something? She remembered how he had spoken about trust earlier and realized that staying was also about proving trust, not just to him but to herself. The night came and they sat on the porch again. The stars looked different after the storm. She felt the quiet in a new way, not heavy but full of possibility. He spoke quietly about his life, about choosing to stay in one place, about learning to let some people close and others go. She listened closely. For the first time she felt a little understood. The fear of being sent away was still there, but it felt smaller. Later, she went to her room. She unpacked a few more items, a small blanket, a book from Home Things, to remind her that she had made a choice. She thought about the cowboy, about the quiet way he guided her, about the patience he showed without demanding. A thought rose in her chest. Could she trust him? Could she let herself stay without fear outside? He watched her window. He thought about the moment he first saw her, how he had known she feared being sent away, how he had chosen to let her prove herself. He had his own reasons for keeping her close, not only for work but for the quiet companionship they both needed. He did not speak these words, not yet. The time was not right as night deepened over the ranch. Both lay awake thinking about the same thing, not fear this time, but the future and the steps they would have to take to reach it. Morning came slow and warm. She woke to birds calling and sunlight spilling through the window. Her body felt rested, yet alert. She remembered the work waiting outside and the rhythm of the land. She dressed quietly and stepped outside. The cowboy was already at the barn. He moved with ease and confidence, as if the land and animals were a part of him. She carried her tools and walked beside him. The animals were calmer this morning. She noticed small things she had missed before them. Way the wind shifted the smell of hay. The way the horses responded to her voice. The cowboy watched her closely, yet without pressure. She felt that trust again, the trust that had been building day by day. A small accident happened near the fence. She tripped over a loose plank. The cowboy caught her just in time. She looked into his eyes. For a moment she felt safe and seen. Later, they sat on the porch eating a simple meal. The sun was warm on their backs. The air smelled of fresh grass and earth. She spoke first this time. She asked why he wanted her to stay. He took a long moment, then he told her quietly. He said he had seen something in her that reminded him of strength hidden beneath fear. He said she had faced more than most and still chose to keep moving forward. He wanted her to stay not out of obligation, but because she belonged here. She felt her chest tighten. The words were gentle, yet strong. She had waited for this truth without knowing it. The day went on with work and small talk. She moved with confidence. Now mistakes were met with guidance, not judgment. She learned the rhythm of the ranch, and the rhythm of the cowboy. Evening came, and the sky turned gold and pink. They finished their tasks and sat quietly. She realized she had chosen to stay out of fear, but because she wanted to belong. She looked at the land around her, the wide fields, the mountains far away, the animals resting. Everything felt right in a way it never had before. The cowboy spoke about the future, not plans too large to be frightening, small steps that built trust and strengths. She listened carefully and nodded. Night fell, and she returned to her room. She unpacked the rest of her things, her blanket, her book, and small personal items. She placed them neatly this time. It felt like home. She lay on the bed, thinking about the days that had passed, the fear that had shadowed her every step, the patience and guidance of the cowboy, the quiet moments that had shown her she was signed. Outside, the wind moved through the grass. Stars shone. Clearly she knew now that staying did not mean being trapped. It meant choosing to trust. And be trusted. The cowboy watched from the porch. He knew the moment had come. He knew she understood. He had revealed the reason she stayed, and it was more than work or kindness. It was belief in her strength and his need for her presence. They shared the night quietly. No words needed to confirm what they both felt. Trust and belonging had taken root. By the morning, she moved through the chores with a steady heart. She spoke freely with the cowboy. The fear of being sent away no longer guided her steps. Days and weeks passed their lives intertwined with the rhythm of the land. The work continued. The quiet companionship grew. She had learned to trust herself, and him, the cowboy, had learned to trust her presence and commitment in that quiet place on the wide open land. She had finally found a home, not because someone kept her there, but because she chose to stay, because she felt valued and needed, because the cowboy had shown her the truth without forcing a hand. So life continued on the ranch, strong, steady, and full of small moments that mattered. She walked with confidence, worked with care, laughed with relief and joy, and slept with peace, knowing she was no longer waiting for a door to close. The cowboy moved alongside her, patient, yet present, strong, yet understanding. He did not need to say more. She knew the truth now, and it was enough. The fear of being sent away was gone, replaced with quiet trust, deep belonging, in the sense that she had finally found the place she was meant to. Beatty's sun rose slowly over the wide fields, and the air was cool and quiet. She stepped outside, feeling the rhythm of the land beneath her feet. Her body moved with ease now, knowing the tasks that lay ahead. The cowboy was already near the barn, checking the fences. He looked up and nodded at her. She nodded back, feeling a steady calm in her chest. The animals moved around them with trust. She noticed the small changes in their behavior, how the young horse followed her without hesitation, how the cows recognized her voice and came closer. She felt a sense of belonging that was new and strange. It was not just about safety or shelter, it was about being a part of something bigger. Cowboy watched quietly as she worked. He did not speak often. His presence alone guided her. They carried water together. For the garden, shape balanced the buckets with care. He showed her the best way to lift and move without strain. At one point, a sudden gust of wind knocked over a stack of firewood. She jumped back and stumbled. He caught her hand and steadied her. They both laughed softly. The sound felt lighter than any sound she had heard in years. Later, they repaired a broken cart. She held nails and tools as he hammered it. Movement was precise, instruction gentle. She realized how much she had learned, not only about the work but about herself. She had grown stronger and more patient. She had grown more trusting. During lunch, she sat on the porch, peeling vegetables. The cowboy joined her with a small bowl of fruit. They ate quietly, but the comfort of shared space was enough. She spoke about the animals, about what she noticed. He listened carefully. He asked questions not to test her, but to understand her view. The afternoon brought chores inside the house, cleaning, sweeping, small repairs. She moved with confidence, her hands steady, her mind alert. The cowboy observed without interrupting. He let her learn at her own pace. He did not rush or criticize. By evening, the sun was low and golden. They finished the last tasks. The animals were fed and settled. The land looked calm. They sat on the porch again. The sky was painted with colors she had not noticed before. She spoke first. She asked him if he had always lived here. He told her about the years he spent building the ranch, about the choices he made, and the people he had trusted and lost. She listened closely. The more he spoke, the more she understood. His quiet patience was not weakness. It was a choice to stay and protect what mattered. She realized that her own fear of being sent away was fading. The trust she had built was stronger. She did not feel the tightness in her chest. She did not wait for rejection later. She walked along the fence line. The cowboy followed at a distance. She felt free to move and observe. The land felt alive under her gaze. A young calf stumbled. Near a ditch, she ran forward and guided it safely. The cowboy appeared and nodded approvingly. She felt pride and relief. Night came again, the sky full of stars. She prepared a simple dinner. He joined her at the table. They ate slowly, enjoying the quiet afterwards. She cleaned up and moved to her room. She unpacked the last item. She had brought everything in its place. everything as it should be. She lay on the bed and thought about the journey, the fear she had carried here, the patience she had learned to trust. She had earned outside. The wind moved gently through the grass. Cowboy leaned against the porch post. He watched her window, knowing she had finally settled, knowing the fear that had driven her to guard herself was gonna. She realized the real reason. She stayed not because anyone forced her, not because of fear or obligation, but because she had chosen to belong, because she had learned trust and patience and love for the life she had built. The cowboy had seen this in her from the beginning, and he had guided her without pressing, allowing her to discover it herself. As night deepened, both lay awake thinking about the land, animals, the work, the quiet bond that had grown between them. She felt peace for the first time in years, knowing she was not alone, knowing she was valued, knowing she had chosen her place, and it had chosen her back. The moon rose high and cast light over the ranch. She fell asleep with a calm heart. The cowboy remained on the porch quietly watching the stars, both of them aware of the bond that had grown into life they would share together moving forward. Sun rose slowly over the wide fields, and the air was cool and quiet. She stepped outside, feeling the familiar rhythm of the land beneath her feet. Her body moved easily. With confidence from years of work, the cowboy was already at the barn, checking fences and moving quietly among the animals. She walked beside him, carrying a bucket of water for the horses. Her hands were strong now, and steady. The horses recognized her voice and came closer without hesitation. The day began with small tasks: filling water troughs, feeding animals, cleaning stalls. She moved efficiently and without fear. The cowboy watched quietly without interrupting. They worked in silence for hours, though. Sun rose higher, and the air grew warmer. She noticed the small details around her, the way the wind shifted, the smell of hay and grass, the way the sun caught on the fence posts, the way the horses and cattle moved with their own rhythm. At one point, a young horse bolted from the corral. She froze for a moment, unsure what to do. The cowboy ran after it, calling softly. Followed hesitantly from a distance, she realized she was learning to trust herself as well as him. After the horse was safe, she helped return the animals to the pasture. The cowboy nodded approvingly. She smiled and felt a warmth in her chest she had not felt in years. Later, they repaired a broken cart together. She held nails and tools. As he hammered, every movement was precise and careful. She learned the small techniques of lifting, balancing, and guiding the wood, each instruction gentle but firm. By midday, the sun was hot. They rested under the wide tree at the edge of the field. She drank slowly from her water bottle. The cowboy leaned back against the trunk. For the first time, she spoke freely about her past without fear. She told him about the homes she had lived in, the people who had decided she was not worth keeping, quiet loneliness that had followed her. He listened without interrupting, his eyes steady and patient. He asked questions not to test her, but to understand her experience. She realized that speaking these truths aloud made her stronger. Her fear of being sent away seemed smaller. Now she felt understood. After the break, they returned to the barn. She worked with a new energy. She stacked hay, carefully repaired broken fences, and cleaned the floors. Cowboy guided her only when necessary. As the afternoon grew long, they moved inside the house. She prepared a simple meal. He joined her, and they ate quietly. The comfort of shared space and work was enough. After lunch, she swept the floors and tidied the kitchen. He watched silently. Occasionally, he would offer guidance, but mostly he let her move free. The animals were restless outside. Few calves had wandered too far from the pasture. She ran to help guide them back. The cowboy followed, supporting her if needed. The land stretched wide and open around them. She felt part of it, not just a visitor or worker, but a part of the rhythm of this place. By evening, the chores were done. The sun was low in the sky. Light turned golden and soft. They walked slowly around the land, checking animals, fences, and the garden. She felt a sense of accomplishment. Her body was tired, but her spirit was light. She had learned so much, not just about the work, but about herself. Cowboy asked about her thoughts on the land. She described the subtle details she had noticed, though. Changes in animal behavior, the way the soil responded to the wind, the small adjustments she had learned to make in her work. He nodded approvingly. Her observations showed understanding and care. Night fell, and they sat on the porch together, the sky full of stars in the air. She spoke about the life she was building here, about the trust she had found in herself and him. He shared pieces of his own story about the years he had spent learning this land alone, about mistakes he had made and lessons he had learned, about the patience it took to care for something and someone chase. Listened closely, feeling more connected than ever. The quiet bond between them grew stronger with each passing moment later. She walked through the fields alone, the moon casting soft light over the land. She felt at peace for the first time in years, not afraid of the future, not worried about rejection, just present and aware. The wind moved through the grass and tree as she touched the animals softly as they moved around her reach, one recognizing her touch and voice. The cowboy observed from the porch. He knew the moment had come when fear was no longer the guide she had chosen to stain, out of obligation but out of understanding. And trust. Days turned into weeks. They worked together from sunrise to sunset. The animals thrived, the land was cared for, and the bond between them deepened. She learned the quiet ways of leadership and care. She understood when to act and when to wait. She moved with purpose and confidence. Meals became times of quiet conversation, sharing thoughts about the day, observations about the land and animals, and small personal stories. The comfort of routine and understanding filled the space between them. Sometimes storms came. They worked together to protect the animals and property. The fear she once felt was replaced with action and other times the weather was gentle. They walked the land slowly. She felt part of every detail and every movement. She learned to observe subtle changes, the way an animal responded to a sound, the way soil reacted to water, way wind shifted through the trees. She realized the cowboy had been teaching her to see more than just work. He had been teaching her to see life in its quiet details. Nighttime became a space of reflection. She would lay in bed thinking about the day and the lessons learned, thinking about the bond growing between her. The cowboy. She felt safe and strong. The fear of being sent away no longer haunted her. Instead, she felt a deep connection to the land and the people she had chosen to trust. Weeks turned into months. The routines became second nature. The work was hard but satisfying. Her body strong, her mind alert, her spirit content. She learned to act with patience and understanding, not rushing when unnecessary and not waiting when action was needed. The cowboy observed and guided. He let her make mistakes and learn from them. He offered quiet praise and encouragement. She learned the art of listening to animals, to the land, to the quiet voice within herself. She found wisdom in patience and strength in consistency. They spent evenings on the porch watching stars move across the sky, talking about small details, sharing quiet moments, learning to trust each other fully. She realized the real reason she had stayed, not because anyone forced her, not because of fear, but because she had chosen it herself, because she had learned to trust and to belong. The cowboy had seen this from the beginning. He had guided her without rushing, allowing her to discover her own strength. As time passed, the ranch flourished. Animals, healthy and calm, fields tended carefully, the garden thriving. She moved through the work with confidence and care, the cowboy beside her, quietly guiding the land, responding to their efforts. Each day ended with reflection, sharing observations and stories, not forced but natural and warm. She felt gratitude for the land and the work for the cowboy, and the trust that had grown for the small details that made life meaningful. At night, she slept with peace and calm, no fear, no doubt, only trust and understanding. Bond between her and the cowboy grew deeper, not in words alone, but in shared work and quiet moments. They understood each other. Without needing to speak, everything. The land became home, the animals family, the work a rhythm that connected them. She realized staying had never been about fear. It had always been about discovering belonging and trust. Each day reinforced this truth. She worked with purpose and confidence. She moved through the land with awareness. She acted with care for every living thing around her. The cowboy watched with quiet satisfaction. He had guided without pushing, allowed discovery without interference. The trust they had built was strong and lasting. She smiled as she moved among the animals, the wind carrying soft scents of earth and grass, sun warming her back. She felt part of everything. The nights were calmed, the stars bright, the bond unspoken, yet understood. They had found a rhythm together through all seasons. She continued learning the work, evolving with weather and animals. She adapted and grew stronger. She faced challenges with patience and understanding. Cowboy remained her steady guide, present yet allowing. Freedom strong yet gentle, she felt gratitude each morning for the land, for the animals, for the trust and companionship. She had found a home she had chosen to belong to, and it had chosen her back. The rhythm of the ranch became part of her heart. In tune with the land and work and the quiet presence of the cowboy, she realized that this life was more than work. It was learning patience, understanding trust, and belonging. Months turned to years. The ranch flourished, and she flourished with it. The bond with the cowboy deepened naturally. No fear, no obligation, only shared life and respect. She felt peace knowing she had chosen to stay there. Fear that once ruled her heart was gone, replaced by understanding, trust, and belonging. The sun rose and set over the wide fields. She moved with confidence and grace. Her hands skilled, her mind alert, her heart open. The cowboy watched with quiet satisfaction. Had guided her not through force, but through patience and understanding, allowing her to discover herself in her place. She understood fully now why she had stayed, because of fear or duty, but because she had found trust, strength, and belonging. The land, the animals, the work, and the cowboy had become part of her, and she had become part of them. This was home, and she had chosen to stay. Morning came soft and quiet over the wide fields, and the air smelled of grass and earth. She stepped outside, feeling the familiar rhythm of the land beneath her feet. The sun was low and golden, and the animals moved calmly around her. Though Cowboy was already at the barn, checking fences and feeding the animals. He glanced at her and nodded. She nodded back, feeling the steady calm in her chest that had grown over the years. They worked together through the morning, filling water troughs, feeding animals, cleaning stalls, and repairing fences. Her hands were strong and steady, and her movements confident. The horses and cattle recognized her presence and responded calmly. She noticed the small details of the land, the way the wind moved through the grass, the sound of birds and insects, the way the soil changed under her feet. She felt part of everything around her. The cowboy guided her only when necessary. He allowed her to make choices and learn from mistakes. The bond between them had grown into quiet understanding. At midday, they rested under a large tree. She drank water and watched the animals move. The cowboy joined her after a while, and they shared a quiet meal. She spoke about the land and the animals, the patterns she had noticed, and the small adjustments she had made in her work. He listened attentively and asked questions to understand her perspective. Afternoon brought new tasks. They repaired a broken fence and cleaned the barn. She moved efficiently with confidence. The cowboy guided when needed, but mostly let her learn through experience. She realized how much she had grown, not only in strength and skill, but in trust and patience. The fear that had once shadowed her steps was gone, replaced by understanding and confidences. The day grew long. They worked on the garden, planting vegetables and flowers. The cowboy showed her small techniques to make the soil fertile and the plants strong. She listened carefully and followed his guidance. Evening came, and the sun turned the sky gold and pink. They finished their work and walked slowly through the fields, checking the animals and making sure everything was in order. She felt a deep sense of accomplishment. Her body was tired, but her spirit was light. Land was cared for and the animals safe. They returned to the house and prepared a simple meal together. The comfort of shared work and quiet conversation filled the space between them. After the meal, they sat on the porch watching the stars. The night was calm and the air cool. She spoke about the life she had built here, and the trust she had found in herself, and the cowboy. He shared pieces of his own story, the years he had spent alone on the land, the mistakes he had made, and the lessons he had learned. Though patience it took to care for something and someone. She listened and felt a connection deeper than words could express. The quiet bond they shared had grown stronger with each passing day. Later, she walked through the fields alone under the moonlight. The wind moved softly through the grass. She felt a calmness and peace she had never known. The cowboy watched from the porch. He knew the fear that had once ruled her heart was gone. She had chosen to stay out of understanding and trust. not obligation or fear days. Passed into weeks and weeks into months, they worked together from sunrise to sunset. The land flourished, the animals thrived, the bond between them deepened. She learned to move with patience and understanding, to act with care and observation, to notice the small details that made a difference. The cowboy guided her silently, allowing her to grow and learn. He offered praise and encouragement when it was needed. The trust they had built was strong and lasting. Nights became times of reflection and quiet conversations, shared her thoughts and observations about the land and animals. He listened and shared his own reflections. The work continued through the seasons, planting, harvesting, repairing, and caring. For the animals, she adapted to the challenges and learned new skills through all the tasks. She learned about herself, her strength, patience, and ability to trust. She realized she had found a home and a purpose. The cowboy remained her steady guide, present, yet allowing her freedom. Strong, yet gentle Shay moved through the days with gratitude, grateful for the land, the animals, the trust, and companionship. Shay felt a sense of belonging that had grown over time. The sun rose and set over the wide fields. Shay worked with confidence and care, her heart open, her mind alert, her hands skilled. The cowboy observed with quiet satisfaction. He had guided her not through force, but through patience and understanding, allowing her to discover herself and her place. To land. The animals, the work, and the cowboy had become part of her, and she had become part of them. She understood fully now why she had saddened, because of fear or duty, but because she had found trust, strength, and belonging. The rhythm of the ranch had become part of her life's day, reinforcing the lessons learned, patience, understanding, and the quiet joy of shared work. The bond with the cowboy grew naturally through shared effort, observation, and care. They understood each other without needing to speak everything. Even in storms, she moved with confidence, guiding animals, securing fences and property. Her fear was replaced with action and calm. Gentle weather, she walked slowly, observing every detail, learning and growing with each movement. Nighttime became a space of reflection. She thought about the journey and the growth she had achieved. The bond with the cowboy and the trust they shared. She felt peace and gratitude for the land, for the work, for the animals, and the quiet companionship, for the choice she had made to stay and belong. Months and years passed. The ranch flourished, and she flourished with it. The bond with the cowboy deepened and strengthened. She felt confident and capable, able to meet the challenges of the land and life. Her heart open to trust and understanding. The work and rhythm of the ranch became second nature, each day reinforcing lessons of patience and care. Evenings were spent on the porch, sharing quiet conversation, reflecting on the day, and planning for the future. Forced but natural and warm, Shay realized the real reason she had stayed, out of fear or duty, but because she had found belonging and trust. The land and animals responded to their care. The cowboy guided with quiet strength. She moved with confidence and understanding. The sun rose and set over the fields. The wind moved softly through the grass. Animals responded calmly to their presence. She felt gratitude for each day, for the lessons learned, for the trust built, for the quiet life. The cowboy watched with satisfaction. He had guided her through patience and understanding, allowing her to discover herself and her place. She had chosen to stay because she had found trust, strength, and belonging. Land, the animals, the work, and the cowboy had become part of her hand. She had become part of them. This life was full of small moments that mattered, moments of observation, care, trust, and quiet companionship. Each day reinforcing the lessons of patience, understanding, and belonging. The rhythm of work and life on the ranch became her own, her heart in tune with the land and the presence of the cowboy, her spirit calm and content through the seasons. She continued to grow, learning patience, understanding, and trust. Her skills and confidence deepened. The bond between her and the cowboy continued to strengthen, not in grand gestures, but in quiet observation, shared work, and unspoken understanding. She felt at home. The fear of being sent away no longer had power. She had chosen this place, and it had chosen her back each day, ended with reflection gratitude for the land. Animals, and the quiet bond that had grown, she felt peace, strength, and belonging in her heart. The ranch flourished under their care, the animals healthy, the land thriving. And the life around them, steady she walked among the animals, observing, guiding and carrying her hands skilled, her mind alert, her heart open. Night fell, and she lay peacefully, knowing she was where she belonged. The cowboy watched from the porch quietly. Contentedly, the trust and bond they shared was deep and unspoken. The sun rose and set. Seasons passed, and the rhythm of the ranch became the rhythm of her life, each day full of work, care, trust, and quiet. Joy she had chosen to stay, not from fear, but because she had found trust, strength, and belonging. The land, the animals, the work, and the cowboy were all part of her, and she was part of them.